Hello everyone, welcome back to the 3D Tinkerer channel. Today we're going to be building a new computer. We're going to be going over some of the general building advice for building a computer. But overall, this is just something that I kind of wanted to do. I thought it would also speed up my workflow in some cases. I have a pretty old setup, so let's just get started. So starting off, should you build a computer? Well, first of all, it is a lot of fun, not gonna lie. But second of all, you can in some cases save money. You usually have to shop around, and you could even get reused parts on eBay, but it all depends on what you're looking for exactly. In my case, I bought pretty much all new except for my graphics card, which we're gonna be talking about graphics cards in a little bit. So going on to the second point, you probably don't want to build a computer right now. That's mainly due to a lot of factors. As of recording, there's still COVID lockdowns. Manufacturing is cut short. There's also scalpers that are buying expensive parts and reselling them at markup over MSRP. Fortunately, I was able to get my AMD processor, my 5900X, at MSRP from Newegg, but that's because I won their shuffle, so that's a lot of fun. There's also cryptocurrency demand. Ethereum right now is just skyrocketing, so is Bitcoin and all the other ones. So there's a lot of people that are buying up GPUs just for mining Bitcoin or not Bitcoin, but Ethereum. There's also cases in China of people buying gaming laptops and using them to mine as well. So everything's really limited right now. And of course, there's also general demand. Cyberpunk's at 2077 just came out. People want to upgrade their systems, their stimulus checks. Demand's just crazy right now. So I wouldn't recommend looking to buy a computer right now. I would recommend saving up and watching tutorials and looking up resources for good, knowledgeable tutorials on how to build a computer. This one isn't the best one. It's more of like a fun video, but that's my recommendation right now. And of course, this is a Blender tutorial channel, so this will help me render my Blender projects a lot faster, but you do not need a powerful computer to run Blender. You need a decent computer. You can use Eevee, the new rendering engine. Now it's a very strong engine that you don't really need a super powerful computer for. That's not what it's meant for. In fact, Ian Hubert just released his teaser for a short film that he's working on that is 100% rendered in Eevee. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. And even if you wanted to use things like cycles, there's also services such as Sheepit, which are very cool free services where you can use a little bit of your computer power and borrow a bunch of other people's computer power to render out your scene. So there's a lot of resources and ways to get around not having a super strong computer. So don't go thinking you need a super powerful computer to make really good art or movies or tech related demos. I don't know, anything. Blender's really versatile. So let's quickly talk about why I'm actually upgrading. Well, my current rig is pretty old. Most of it's from 2013. I'm running an i7 2600K. That's from 2013. It's like 23 nanometer. This one's 7 from AMD. So, and you know, Intel's been on 14 plus or whatever they're running. So this is going to be a big upgrade. And not only in terms of core count, there's a 12 core processor versus my current 4 core processor, but it's also each core is about 2 times as fast according to like CPU mark and things like that. So this is going to be a big upgrade for me. Unfortunately, I am going to have to reuse my GPU as mentioned before with GPU shortages right now. I do have a 1080, so it's okay, but you know, I kind of want a 3000 series, so that's why I have a powerful processor down there that we'll come back to later. I also have 16 gigs of RAM. It's really slow. I think it's DDR3. We have some really fast, I think 3600 DDR4, so that's going to be really nice. Plus it's RGB, unnecessary, but I thought it would look cool. I also have a pretty ugly case. It hasn't really held up to the test of time very well, and the power supply is just a rat's nest. It's not modular at all. Every cable's in there, and since it's like a 700 watt, it has every cable you might need. So we have a fully modular power supply down there, so that's going to look really nice. It's actually even higher than my current one. It's an 850 watt, which is probably unnecessary for this setup, but if I do get a next gen graphics card, I might actually end up needing it. So that's why I went with that one. Also, I plan on gaming on this station. I'm not a huge gamer, but I do game a considerable amount of my time, especially since COVID's going on. So we're going to have to kind of see how this does game-wise. I imagine it's going to do pretty good. The AMD 3rd gen Ryzen is actually pretty dang fast, and Intel hasn't released anything as fast. We might see something in a couple months from Intel that can compete, but right now this should be the fastest thing I can get besides the 5950X, but I couldn't get one. It's sold out everywhere. So, and even then, I I don't think that's a speed difference, it's more of just core count. And last but not least, I just really wanted to build a new computer. I've been saving up money for a while. I don't really recommend buying a computer on credit or any big purchases unless it's like a business necessity or something like that. But in my case, yeah, I kind of just wanted to build a new computer. I've had my current one for like 7 or 10 years, somewhere around there. So I think it's time for an upgrade. So let's get started. Now this is the fun part where I get to show you my Frankenstein PC. So I've been running this since like 2013, and you can see I just kind of let some of the power supply cables hang out the back because there's so many of them. I know that's probably not safe, but it's too cramped in here. So let's put this panel off to the side. So you can see I have a 750 watt, and there's just so many cables, and there just isn't anywhere to put them all. So these are the ones that I have nothing to do with. You can see I have some old 4 sticks of some sort of RAM equals 16 gig. I have a Corsair CPU cooler that's really dusty, and some of the fans are bent on here from me trying to clean it. We have a disk drive that I don't think even works anymore, so I just unplugged it. We have a couple of hard drives in RAID 0, so there's no redundancy. I do back it up to an unraid server though, so they're not totally useless, I guess. We have a 500 gig hard drive, I believe. That was what I used to run Windows off of and everything, and now I have an SSD, which just kind of floats up here because I didn't have any brackets. But it's solid state, you know, it's not gonna do anything, right? We have an Ethernet port we have an Ethernet card because the port on here actually died on the motherboard. Must have been like a power surge or something. So the newest thing in this case is honestly this GTX 1080, so that's what we're going to be salvaging. It's still pretty toasty from some Ethereum mining, and oh wow, it needs a cleaning. It has a really epic giant fan on the top, which is also dusty. There's basically no dust filtering on here at all. I had to buy these covers separately, but they wouldn't fit between these like front panel things, so I just took those off and pushed the actual hard drive base forward so it looked kind of flush. But you can see if you just take one of these off, it's just the bare fan underneath. So it I think I really do need an upgrade. So you can see all the dust that's coming off of that. So yeah. So even though building a computer can look pretty complicated, it's actually pretty easy. It's basically just power and data. That's pretty much all the cables you got to worry about. And in the case of things like NVMEs, it's actually just one plug. You just plug it in. It does the power and data for you all in one. So that's pretty cool. Basically, all I'm really going to need is hopefully the screwdriver. That's how easy a computer usually is to build. So let's get started with it. So usually what you want to do is you want to start out with your motherboard. In this case, I got an ASUS Prime X570. Usually motherboards will come with some extra cables, SATA. We'll need one of those for our hard drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rest it up here, and I'm going to get it out. So what I like to do is I like to just rest it on the static bag thing, so that way it's just a little bit more protection. So usually how you go about this is you want to go CPU, RAM, anything else you might need to plug in, NVMe drive, which goes under here, I believe. First, we're going to peel off the plastic. Get ready for a plastic moment. So now we have to gracefully open up our processor here. Oh, not as graceful as I would want it to be, but it worked. So the way you put these in are pretty simple. There's a little there's a little gold triangle on these bad boys. And basically, it points in a certain direction, and if you line those up, it kind of just goes in one way. You push this retention arm out of the way, and we have one little triangle up here at the top, and there's a little tiny triangle right there. And also the pins line up in a way that you really shouldn't be able to put this in the wrong way. So basically I'm just going to drop that in there. And it's just kind of resting in there. You want to be careful those pins, don't bend them. And once it looks nice and flush, I'm just going to gently push down the retention arm. There was like no resistance there. So good, that's all it takes to install our processor. Next we're going to go on to our RAM. So this is Corsair's Vengeance Pro RGB RAM, whatever. Basically this is two 32 gig sticks for a total of 64 gigs of RAM. I'll probably never need all of this, but I don't know, maybe I want to compile Chrome from source or something stupid, you know, I could do that. Play a lot of Minecraft mods, I don't know. RAM is also ridiculously easy to put in. It only goes in one way, as you can see by this little notch down here. So you literally cannot put it in wrong. Now what you can do wrong is get the dual channel set up wrong. I believe it is the two gray ones here. I'm gonna check the manual just to be sure. Aha. So I don't know if you can see that very well, but basically it shows us that we want both gray slots, B2 and A2. So let's do this one stick at a time. In this case, sometimes there's little clips on both sides, but there's just this one in our case. So we're gonna flip that one up. It kind of just slides into these channels here. Oh boy. And then if we just put a little bit of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. Ah! Oh, you heard it click. You can see our retention arm pop back up. That really hurt. And we'll do the same thing with our second stick. This one's a bit more easy to get in here. Ow. That one clicked more on the left, but you can see the retention arm pop back up. I wonder why this one's so loose. Oh, by the way, a common problem for PCs that don't boot. Take the RAM out, put it back in. Sometimes it fixes it. So that's most of the components we really want to get on the motherboard at this time. You could also put on, if you had a tiny like Intel cooler or AMD cooler, you could throw that on here. But we have a big boy. As you can see, oh, we have the Noctua NHD15, a gigantic cooler that maybe I should put on now. It's gonna get in the way of so many connectors though. And screws. Yeah, I'm gonna put it on later. So, next step is we're gonna put this into the case. And here we have the Design 7 from Fractal. Now, I like this case for a couple reasons. One, it's got a really big glass side panel. It's got the nice white background. It's got cable ties in the back for cable management. It's got a Type-C port, which part of the reason I even got that motherboard is because it had a front I/O Type-C port that you can attach over here. So overall, it's a pretty cool case. Probably a little bit bigger than for something I really need. It can also double as a server board. It can hold like 12 hard drives over here. It's crazy. But in my case, it's not gonna be too crazy. I can always upgrade and throw cool stuff in. So to get the side panel off, you just scarily pull here. Oh. And it just kind of pops out. You carefully take glass out of your computer. Gamers Nexus did a video on the thermals, and while it is a bit of a furnace, it does have the heat door. Look at that. You're rendering some stuff on Blender, you just open up your door. Eh? Now in this case, it already has the risers installed for the motherboard. Sometimes you have to put these in yourself. They're basically little screws they're little like standoffs that allow you to screw into the motherboard through these points all over it. They also ground your motherboard. You can see here these little metal rings around where the screws will go. Those are actually for grounding your motherboard. So you really want to make sure you have a good amount of those screwed in beyond just like a stability standpoint. So if we needed a front I/O panel that would go in here, you just snap that in, but this one actually has it installed. I am going to peel this plastic off because, oh wait, because I imagine that's going to be a pain in the butt later if I didn't. So basically this front I/O panel is just going to slide into here, and this case actually has a built-in like rod that you don't really screw into, but it'll help hold your motherboard in, which is very helpful. So let's just carefully put this in. So our panel looks good on the other side. Let's see if we can find that standoff. Perfect. So it's a bit hard to see, but we have a little standoff in there that's going to hold us into place while we screw everything else in. And as with most computer parts, you don't really want to screw these in too tight. You just want to be nice and snug. One thing I did forget to put in was my 2 terabyte 970 Evo Plus NVMe drive from Samsung. But these are super easy to put in. It just goes under a heatsink here. So just look at this. This is 2 terabytes of storage. Look at how tiny and thin it is. And it's still like super fast. So I just think that's awesome. So I actually brought something better than a screwdriver. I brought a pen. So let's get in here and free our NVMe slot. There goes one. There goes the other. So what I need to do is I need to screw in a little standoff right down here. So this little standoff is where our NVMe drive is going to go. So we're just going to take this and we're going to plug it in down here. And you need to put a little bit of pressure. And you can see how it just fits there perfectly. So we're going to take the world's tiniest screws. These are so freaking tiny. Look at them. Look at how tiny that screw is. Oh boy. Found it. And we're just going to screw it in like that. It's nice and tight. Lift it out. So now that the NVMe drive's in there, we're just going to take this cover and put it back on. Oh wait, almost forgot. This will make it so that our NVMe drive stays nice and cool. So that's our NVMe drive installed, and it should have plenty of pressure for that thermal pad. So I think we are good to try to put this cooler on. It's gonna be a little scary to put the cooler on because we're gonna have to remove these two pieces and there's gonna be a lot of pressure and everything, but let's just get the cooler out of the box. It's probably got more aluminum on it than the case does. Here is the freaking humongous cooler. As you can see, it's black, so the camera doesn't really like picking it up. But man, it is just a chunker. You can see this is where the CPU goes. We have a ridiculous amount of heat pipes. And of course, it's not the regular Noctua colors, it's their dark, what is it called? Where's the box? This is the Chrome Max version, I guess. So, very big, very chunky. Excited to see how this thing performs. So first, let's get rid of these big old default brackets. So now that those are gone, yeah, sounds like the bracket just fell through. So we're gonna stand this up and hopefully it doesn't make a loud noise. So we're gonna take the back cover off. Oh, there she goes. So this goes in the back. Need some of these standoffs. So our setup is basically gonna go bracket, screws, spacer. Let's try to get these in there without making a huge mess. Oh, don't fall. Stop. Hold in the other side. Then we're gonna just come in here and tighten them down. So we have our two brackets installed, the top and bottom. Now we're gonna take the fan off of this heatsink. Basically just lift these little tabs off without cutting yourself. And then the fan should, oh boy, just comes right out. That's because we need to get to these screws down here, which are actually have springs on them for tensioning. Now for the thermal paste, they usually say you just want like a piece of rice, so I'm gonna try to do that without messing up too much. I'd say that's a little bit. That's quite a bit, not gonna lie, but hopefully it doesn't make too many people cringe. So we're gonna remove the plastic cover from our cooler. So very carefully, we're gonna settle this on both of the standoffs. And then, so we're just gonna tension one side, tension this side. I'm feeling a lot of resistance, but not enough to stop it. We want to go until it can't go anymore because these screws are giving it the tension it needs. That one's bottomed out. I think this is the other one too. It's gonna be tricky to put these in. So we want to push all the air to the back of the case. And usually on fans, in Noctua's case, they're on the bottom, it seems like. There's these little arrows that tell you where the air is pointing. In this case, we kind of want it positioned like this, and it's just going to clip onto the cooler. And this is going to go to a CPU fan header, which is going to be a pain to reach. So the manual here says we have CPU fan and CPU OPT, which should be CPU optional fan, I'm guessing. And those are both at the top of the motherboard, which I can see the pins. Let's get these plugged in. So first, I'm going to try plugging it in. So there's the CPU fan, and we also need the other CPU fan. So that's both CPU fans. And looking at it, it looks like this is away from our case. This will blow it out of our case, which I guess there's actually two fans. That seems kind of redundant. I might just remove this fan altogether. That's on there, it's plugged in. Try to move the cables out a little bit, but can't do too much with those. Now we're probably gonna have to stand it back up so I can get this fan plugged in the back. Let's go ahead and move all this. So this fan comes down here. It's actually not even plugged into anything. There we go. Extra fan. Now we got the chunker power supply. So get this thing opened up. So here we got our Corsair HX 850. So let's get this thing open. However you open this weird packaging. Silica packet for eating. Here is the power supply. No cables coming off it yet. Oh boy, here's like the carrying case of the cables. Aha. Just need a little bit more force. This actually just is a thing that you can screw off and slide it in. So let's just screw that. Should be able to just slide this in. Put that one on, put that one on. We have 4 screws. One goes up here. That's nice and snug. That one's in, cool. So that's our power supply plugged in. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide one of these rails out for our hard drive to sit in. Need the help of the screwdriver. Pretty handy little slidey thing. So let's go get the hard drive. I'm actually worried about this making more noise than the CPU fans, to be honest, because those are pretty dang quiet. This is gonna sit in here. And I'm going to have to find the proper screws. So now I'm gonna take these screws and go through the plastic into the hard drive. So there's our hard drive. It's pretty secure, I guess. And this just goes on the sled. We screw it in like that. You can see we have an extra hard drive slot here. And I guess apparently all of these could be hard drive slots if you just flip the panel around to the other side. But this isn't going to be a server case. It's just going to be my case for my gaming and productivity and whatnot. Of course, this is where you can put SSDs. I might put one here later. You can see there's also where we can zip tie our cables in here, and there's fan headers up here. And doesn't look like all the fans are connected, so I'll have to do that manually, I guess, but it looks pretty neat so far. And down here is going to be our fan. This is going to connect all of our fans together through this power cable. So it's going to be pretty exciting. Another thing I'm going to do for now is I'm going to fit all these cables through. All of these should be able to go through this bottom hole. It's kind of hard to see. Let's try to move some of these out of the way that we don't need right away. So first we'll start with USB just because this thing's so freaking big and unwieldy. Clips in. We'll try to push some of the excess down, I guess. What do we got here? HD audio. So we'll put this one down here. So this motherboard actually came with this helpful pinout, it looks like. for plugging in all the header pin, or like the power button and all that. So I'm gonna try that. So now I think I'm gonna stand it back up again and clean up that cable slack that we got going on. Guess that's just the best it's gonna look. Oh well. That's what we ended up with. It doesn't look super pretty, but it's the best I'm gonna get. We're gonna plug in SATA, which is the data link for our hard drive. We'll push that in there. Then I'm gonna grab our bundles of power cords. So we're just gonna kind of have to figure out what these are. Looking for the motherboard one, which is this big chunky one. And it's gonna be really hard to get back in there to our power supply, so it'll probably be easier if we just slide it back out. 24 pin ATX, so this is what we want. So I'm gonna plug this one in, followed by this top one. And of course, these cannot really be plugged in the wrong way. They have little shapes on the end of them. It's literally like Legos. And then we need the CPU. So here's a CPU one. Different day, same hoodie, more coffee. So last thing we left off was getting the CPU power cord plugged in. So let's get that started. So let's plug that into here. And then we'll need a GPU plug, which I believe is this one, PCI. Let's get this untangled. Fairly certain this is all I'll need for the GPU. And then the last one we should need is one for the hard drive. So let's get this one untangled. Now I'm only gonna need one of these because the NVMe drive is powered by the motherboard in that slot. So I'll probably tie this back up once I get it plugged in. So we'll plug this one into peripherals and SATA. And as you can see, there's all the cables we should need. So it looks a lot cleaner than my current motherboard, or sorry, my current power supply. Just slides in like that. There we go, our supply is secure. So here's our big chunky motherboard connector. So that comes out this top one. So let's shove that through. So that's the chunky motherboard one. Oh boy. Yeah, I think that'll fit in there. We'll get the other ones plugged in first. So this one will be for our graphics card, which will probably come through the bottom one. So we'll slide this one through as well. Of course, I don't have the graphics card out of my current system yet, so that'll just kind of be hanging on the other side. And then this one's for the CPU, and there's actually little holes up here for that to go. The CPU is actually really out of the way. Like, super inconvenient out of the way. So I need to get it in that little slot down there. As you can see, it's kind of tight. See, this top panel, I think, actually comes off. Oh, there it goes. So you can see I can get my hand through there now. Now, it's gonna take a lot of uncomfortable bending. Oh, it clicked. Can you see that? So now I need to put the top panel back on. I don't think I'll need any more plugins up here. So these go in these slots here. Click back in. Just clips right in. That's super handy. No screws or anything. I think the only power cord left is for the hard drive. So now I need to find the SATA power or whatever. This probably is called something else, but here it is. And I'm only gonna need the one for the hard drive. So just kind of push that in there. Clipped in a little bit. And maybe we can just shove these in the empty slot below it. Keep it out of the way. I think these cables over here are for the fans, which will go up here to the hub. I think there's only two of them. Let's check the door. So there's only two front fans. I guess I could check from the other side. That'd probably be smart. Yep. So these are two female to male connectors. So we'll put one here, one on the end, the other one here. That should be the fans plugged in. So you can see here, I put the big cable in for the motherboard into this zip tie, as well as the CPU power one. And this might need to be pushed more into the case because the back panel is going to be on here. We also have this bottom one. Overall, I think it looks okay on the back. You can see these are 2 spots we could have for SSDs. Just unscrew that. And, oh, I guess you just lift it up. Very cool case. Probably a little overkill for my purposes, but I can always upgrade it or use it for other things. Turn it into a server one day if I didn't need this case anymore. So I think we're good in the back. Oh wait, forgot this fan power cable which goes up to that header control panel thingy. So and this one actually does run off the same power cord used for the power supply, so we could reuse this. I don't really want to put in a whole different cable just for fans, so I guess we will unplug this real quick and unzip tie it. Yeah, that looks so bad, but I don't really want to reuse stuff. So this one over here, there we go. So this will power the fan headers up here. And this other one, yeah, this is where our nice neatness kind of falls apart. This other one will go into the hard drive. And we'll just kind of push that down into there. Oh, I'm sure that's making a lot of people's eyes twitch, but I don't know. I don't really want a bunch of wires on the front going into like fan headers or anything like that. So with that, I think we're good. Now I'll probably get the hard drive here in a little, or the graphics card on my current setup in a little bit. So let's put the back cover back on. Oh, okay, so problem with this is that this just clicks in, but there's so much pressure from that power supply cable that a little push will make it pop off. I think it's just this one, so I guess we'll push it in a little bit. So this should be more flush. Let's try that again. Let me just get an idea how we're looking over here. It's looking pretty clean. Let's have you guys look at it too. So besides this ugly cable right here, and this will be going to the power supply, which will be right about here somewhere. Honestly, it's looking pretty dang clean. I guess these fan headers up here, maybe I can zip tie those down somewhere. And you can see that this fan would probably be better over here, but then we cover up that RGB RAM, which is a pretty dumb decision, honestly, but it's not horrible, I guess. Hopefully this fan will pull enough air through here. And we also have these front case fans that will blow in air too as well, although these aren't as nice because they can only breathe these side slots right here. But overall, it looks pretty clean, much better than my current setup. And we don't have a horrible mess of wires in the bottom. It's not the best either, but I'll take it. So yeah, I think it's looking pretty clean. So I'm probably gonna go get my graphics card and a monitor, mouse and keyboard, and we might be able to actually try booting this thing up. And this, oh, I need to unscrew it. And this thing is, trust me, very toasty. It's been mining Ethereum for probably, I don't know, 3 days straight. So we'll push down this thingy, and you can see there isn't much room. I really had to push some cables to the side. But there we go. The fans actually look pretty dang clean, not gonna lie. You can see the fans look pretty dang clean, and I mean the back is extra dusty, but nothing we can't do with our hands and shirt. Are they stickers? Oh no, these are plastic protector thingies. That's cool, so let's do that. So now what we have to do is put in this top PCI slot our graphics card. This is a dual slot, as you can see. So we're gonna need 2 of these slots removed. Take our screwdriver. There's 1 removed. Let's slide that out. There's 1. That one just fell out. I got the wrong slot. So we'll take this one out. We'll take this one off. We'll try that again. Oh, there we go. If you heard that click in there. So we're gonna take these screws here and we're gonna put these back in. So we need these screws because that slot back there can't hold the weight of this giant graphics card while it's like leaning down. So these will help secure it on the side. Okay, and we'll put one of these slots back because we don't want to have an open slot on our motherboard. Just kind of messy. There. So it looks clean on the back. That's good. Now we need to plug in our single 8-pin. I thought we needed more than that, but I guess not. That's plugged in. So see, the cables don't look too bad. Let's put back our Type-C front panel. There, it clicked in. Doesn't look too bad. Yeah, I mean, that looks really clean. Except for these top cables, which I'm not sure how much I can do with these. It doesn't look too bad, I guess. But yeah, that looks much cleaner compared to my current setup. Much cleaner. I think we're honestly ready to go. We have CPU power, we have the motherboard, we have front panel connectors, Type-C connector, GPU power, it's plugged into the PCI slot. Fans are connected to the hub, and those are just connected to the power supply, basically. I don't think there's a speed switch for the fans, but there could be. Maybe on the back. I don't know, we'll figure that out later. This case actually has room for GPU risers that go right here, so you could put your graphics card up in the front. I'm not sure how you'd go about that. There's probably some sort of kit you can buy. But yeah, I mean, this looks really clean, so I'm really happy with it so far. Now let's just hope that it actually boots. So I'm gonna get this plugged in, and I think we'll just turn it on without the monitor first to see how it looks. And then we'll go from there, and then I'll get the monitor. So I'm gonna switch on first I'm gonna touch the case, make sure I don't have any static electricity built up on me. And I'm gonna flip on the power supply. It's glowing a little bit, cool. And let's hit the power button. That looks pretty neat. I don't see any, oh, there's a light up here. It's blinking white, maybe that's good. It says VGA, I don't know what that means. But it doesn't look like it's air coating out, which is really good, so let's turn it off. Okay, I'll flip off the power supply. Waiting for the motherboard to lose power, basically. Motherboard lose power, come on. You literally don't have a power What, are you running on the button cell? What's going on here? Okay, there we go, cool. So I'm gonna go get a monitor, I'll be right back. Okay. And switch on the power supply. And we're sending it. I see a green light, I see keyboard light, that's a good sign. And hey, there we are. So let's see, so there's our 64-ish gigs of DDR4, although the RAM speed is off, so maybe we need to tweak the settings, XMP it, I guess. We have keyboard, mouse, our 2 terabyte NVMe, our Western Digital 6 terabyte black drive, our Ryzen 5900X 12 core. So yeah, it looks like everything's here. So let's go into the setup screen, I guess. Oh, DOCP, I guess, is AMD's equivalent. So it looks like it's got the timing for our RAM. It's almost 3600. Okay, so I will try to save out of this. Let's see, exit, save changes and reset. Okay, there we go, memory. DDR4 3600, and it's also 64-ish gigabit, or gigabytes, 36 gigabytes. So cool. Okay, here we are, we're in Windows now. So it's gonna ask if we wanna use Edge. Let's just click maybe later for now. So I'm gonna do a couple things. So first I'm gonna go get a Google router so I can connect this to the internet, so I'll be right back. there's actually one on the inside too. Yep, so we have an inside peel as well. Now let's get the side peel. And even though I did touch the front of it, it comes with a microfiber cloth, so I can wipe those off. I almost forgot to get the sound from the outside of the case, so let's do that now. Of course, under load, this will sound a lot different. Now it's time to get the super cool dark room shots.